Good evening. My name is Lorraine Brew. I'm the chairman of the Economic Development Committee. I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. In accordance, I'm just going to read a statement regarding the Zoom aspect. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually via Zoom. Good news, today Governor Baker signed the bill which approves changes that allow boards and committees to continue meeting remotely. So we'll be able to continue in this format for a period of time. Public comments this evening will be accepted during certain portions of the meeting as determined by the chair, if there are any attendees interested. To offer comments via Zoom, you'll be asked to use the button in Zoom labeled raise hand. This will alert us that you wish to speak. We'll bring you into the meeting one at a time, or you can write a comment in the chat section. If you're planning to speak, you may want to take a moment to find the Zoom button. Make sure you have a working microphone, and please be sure that your Zoom window includes your name. If you are participating by phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will be automatically continued to the EDC's next meeting. All votes will be taken by roll call. I'd just like to acknowledge Paige Duncan, our planning director, for all of the assistance she provides in setting up.
Yes. Sure, just add it too. There we go. Close enough.
Mike Stanton.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a quorum. So welcome everyone. We'll get started. Our first agenda item is guest speaker. I want to thank Catherine Rollins for bringing Wendy OMalley to speak with us tonight. So I'll turn it over to Catherine to introduce Wendy.
Thanks very much, Lorraine. And it's my pleasure to introduce Wendy OMalley, who has been a vice president with Mass Development since 2017. As you likely know, Mass Development is the state's finance and economic development agency. And there is a relatively new program called CPACE, which helps finance energy efficiency and sustainability improvements for businesses and, I believe, large-scale residential. So I thought this would be interesting, and without further ado, I will hand it over to Wendy. Wendy, thank you.
Great, thank you for the introduction, Catherine. I'm just going to share my screen quickly, and hopefully you can all see that. And I'm going to run through the slides pretty quickly because I have a limited amount of time, I know, in the meeting. So feel free to stop me or wait till the end for questions and answers. I'll definitely leave enough time. But we are here to talk about property assessed clean energy financing, which is a new program that Mass Development rolled out in August of 2020, just recently, which allows commercial property owners to finance energy improvements and repay them through a voluntary betterment assessment that they would be asking the municipality to place on the property to secure that assessment and lien. This is a betterment that would be financed through a third party. We're not asking the municipalities to loan any money for the energy improvements. The property owners choose who they want to work with in terms of a capital provider or a lender for the projects. And there are a number of benefits for these projects, not just to the property owners who are accessing the financing, but also the municipalities and the lenders who are providing the financing. And I won't read it off for you, but you can see the benefits, both environmental and economic, that PACE provides. And this is just a quick graphic that shows how the repayment structure of the betterment flows from the property owner who sends it to the municipality with the property tax amount each quarter or annually or whenever your cycle occurs. And then the municipality, only if they receive the betterment, would then send it to Mass Development's paying agent, and we in turn would disperse it to the capital provider or lender who financed the project. It's a pass-through. It's not a loan from the municipality. And in terms of PACE, we're coming to a popular program that's already been enabled by 23 plus states, which have financed just over $2 billion worth of projects to date for over 2,500 projects. And what you can see is the left-hand side of the graph shows where the most financings have taken place in terms of the property sector. And we have a lot of these buildings here in Massachusetts that fall into that sector. So we have a huge opportunity to use PACE, just like Connecticut and Rhode Island have for their current programs, which have been active for Connecticut now 10 years. Rhode Island, I think, going on 5 years now. They allow new construction in Connecticut. Our program is for existing buildings only at this point, but hopefully will involve new construction at some further point like Rhode Island and Connecticut. But we want to see the success that they've had in the other programs, and that's why Governor Baker signed this statute into place and it made it legal in the first place. We're the lead program administrator, and we work with the Mass Department of Energy Resources, or the DOER, in terms of administering the program, which means creating the program guidelines under which the projects are approved, both on a technical and financial qualification. We also have a request for information that we have open for the capital providers and lenders in the program. And that's an open structure where we don't limit the amount of providers. All that information is available at massdevelopment.com/PACE for your download at any point. I talked about the fact that this is for existing commercial industrial properties. You can see some of the samples that this might apply to. There's also a nice residential eligibility for multifamily 5 units or more. That's allowed under PACE. If it was 4 units or less, that would need to be enabled under a different statute for residential PACE. And you may be familiar with some of the energy improvements that I have here listed for energy efficiency and renewable energy. And what I like to emphasize is you can also add in the items that are necessary to install these improvements, which are typically not financeable in alternative financing outside of PACE. So, if you think about solar panels, usually a contractor might say you need a new roof in order to install the solar panels. And the roof is the difficult part to fund or finance under alternative structures. Here under PACE, you can include that roof with the solar panel installation as long as you find savings to pay for those improvements under the term of the financing, which here under PACE is up to 20 years. 20 years is a really attractive term for property owners to finance improvements. And if it's a positive cash flow requirement, they're not using any more funds than they would have spent on the existing systems to run them on the fuels that would have existed had they not made the improvements. So it's really intended to allow property owners a chance to improve their buildings. Here's one example of a commercial office building that used PACE to do energy efficiency, AC, lighting improvements. Here's another example of multifamily housing that used a combination of HVAC and energy efficiency improvements. And then here's an example of a distributor manufacturer who retroactively used the PACE financing to basically refinance a project that they had funded outside of PACE previously. When times were better, this is, people may have paid for projects with cash or other financing. But now, in the current conditions, many property owners are looking to access that capital, and they're looking to maybe tap into what they use for PACE, and they can do that under the Massachusetts program. So we're seeing that as also a very popular option. So under the PACE program, you have to opt in as a municipality one time before any property owners can apply to PACE financing with Mass Development. That's done by a vote, by a PACE resolution that the Board of Selectmen or the City Council would vote on. We have 44 municipalities that have already authorized and opted into PACE so far. And I already mentioned that this has to be a positive cash flow project where the energy savings pay for the improvements under the 20-year maximum term. It is third-party financing, no bonds, no public funds are intended to be used here. It is secured by a lien, and if there's an existing mortgage on the property, that mortgage holder has to consent to the PACE financing for it to be approved by Mass Development. I also want to stress that the municipality, in terms of its standing with collection of taxes and liens, is always senior to the PACE assessment and lien. We only come ahead of the private mortgage holder lien with consent in a PACE financing. And PACE financing works because it cannot be accelerated in the terms of a default, which means the property owner only would be, the lender would only be looking to collect the unpaid PACE assessment for one tax cycle if that property owner did not pay for the PACE assessment as promised. It's not the entire financing amount that the lender would be looking to enforce, and that's really important. That's why we characterize this financing as being tied to the land or running with the property. If the property is sold during the term of the PACE financing, the PACE assessment is lien transferred to new ownership. And that makes sense if you think about the energy savings paying for the improvements over time. It should be the owner who's operating the system who pays for the betterment until the financing has been satisfied. It's intended for projects $250,000 or over. So this isn't applicable to every commercial industrial property. You do have to use a certain amount of energy to qualify. So there are going to be projects, probably only one at a time, coming in a municipality in terms of the applications that mass development would see. This isn't something that we would expect multiple applications coming in at a time for a community like Foxborough. And here's just a list of the communities, municipalities that have already opted into PACE. Boston, Springfield, New Bedford, Fall River, Taunton, Gloucester, Easton, Norwood, Chicopee, Salem, and Beverly have been our latest add-ons. And hopefully we can count Foxborough in the future. And this is my last slide, but this is just intended to represent the transaction and the agreement that have to be undertaken during a PACE closing. And mass development's in the middle. We create all the documents. We manage the whole process and coordinate with each of the entities here in terms of how the financing would work. We work with the treasurer collector and the assessment staff of each municipality once they opt in to determine the setup and implementation process. We've engaged them to help out in that, that process. And here is my information. If there's any questions that aren't covered during this presentation, and feel free to email me afterwards, and I'm happy to always talk with anyone afterwards. But I know I covered all that information quickly. I didn't want to exceed my time. Feel free to ask me any questions at this point in the meeting, if you'd like.
Does anyone have any questions for Wendy? Heather.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you. I was just wondering if we had a local business or someone that was interested in it, what is the best way for them to get more information? I assume you don't want them to be emailing you a link or something they can go to?
Yes, on that PACE link that I showed earlier, there is actually an email box that you can email directly. We have a PACE team that monitors that, and they'll send it out to the appropriate regional representative. In this case, we have a Greater Boston region representative, Wong, and also Mariana McCormick, who handle all the property owner inquiries for PACE, for mass development.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Do you have, say we want to look into this, if we hear later that there's business owners interested, do you have support materials or like slideshows or to help sort of sell the program to the layperson? Kind of your PR materials to make our job easier?
Yes, we have materials available, and we have staff who's available to support you in any meeting, or to just, it's really a referral that you can make. We don't expect you to do the heavy lifting and detail all the information out. But if you hear energy improvements, think it'd be hopefully PACE if you're in a community, and then you can refer them to the mass development representative. We'll do all that information, education, and we'll kind of vet the project, and then we'll let you know how that turns out.
Any other questions? Wendy, I wanted to ask if you would be able to share your slide deck for some of our members who weren't present tonight.
Absolutely. I can email it to Catherine and Paige after this, and yes.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. Well, thanks again. Very interesting.
Thank you for inviting me. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Our next agenda item is the 4/28/21 meeting minutes, and to discuss our meeting schedule. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Okay. I'll do a roll call for Can I get a motion to approve, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the April 28th minutes.
Second, please. I'm sorry, I didn't catch who seconded. Mike? Okay.
No, I wasn't at that meeting, so I'm gonna not second it.
Okay. Was that Mike Stanton or no?
Mike Saig.
Everybody.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Tom. All right. So Lorraine Brew, yes. Eva?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Tom Murphy?
Yes.
Catherine Rollins?
Yes.
Mike Saig? Absent? Okay. Mike Stanton? Mike, you're on mute. Okay, take a thumbs up. Okay, thank you. So we just wanted to quickly talk about the meeting schedule. As part of what I'm working on, later on we'll be discussing the master plan update. I reached out to our ex officio members and also Mike Stanton just to get some input as to how they would like to proceed going forward, you know, thoughts on just general ideas on how to format our meetings. And the consensus, you know, for all of our ex officio members was that right now it would make sense for us to not meet this summer, have our next meeting in September, and then going forward, meet quarterly, unless there was a significant economic development issue that arose that we could go back to more frequent meetings if needed at that time. So I just wanted to put that out there and get, you know, just have a quick discussion. Any thoughts or concerns with us going to that type of schedule? Any comments someone wants to make? Go ahead,
Sounds
Mike.
like makes complete sense.
Okay.
Agreed.
Leah, I know you.
Yeah, I thought it made sense to meet more infrequently. I don't think that we talked about convening in September. Obviously, you know, we're coming out of the pandemic, and I think if there's anything that we can do to help, like Uptown Business Collaborative or anything in the meantime, it's, you know, probably important. But I think it makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Barney, I also reached out to Barney. He couldn't be here tonight, but he did agree that, you know, since there weren't any pressing issues this time, that this type of schedule made sense. So we'll plan on doing that. Thank you. Okay, the next item is the subcommittee updates, action items discussion. I'm going to start with rail trail pedestrian transit.
I actually have an update on that. Today at 1 o'clock, there was a session with the rail trail group from the state. It was more general in nature, but here's the news. The decisions on the grant funding that we applied for are forthcoming soon, and then later they said they're on the cusp. So any day now, we should be finding out whether we were awarded the funds for the feasibility study. Other than that, I don't think there's really anything to update.
Yeah, I talked to Dan yesterday, and we really don't have anything besides.
Okay, great. Thank you. Route 1.
Well, can you hear me, Lorraine?
Yes.
Yeah, we had a little subcommittee meeting. We submitted a memo. It's we talked about what's going on with the water system, the schedule for repaving on Route 1 and any other subsurface improvements that would be done either in conjunction or prior to. And that was really the gist of it. So, thank you. Mike, unless Mike has something else to add. But
No, that sounds like a good summation.
Thank you. The business development group. So I met a couple of weeks ago with Diana Gray and Lexi Valancourt, who is the planning board intern for the summer. And we went through the Foxborough existing business guide and the Franklin guide again. And we've picked certain documents that Lexi will be working on Canva software. It's like a design software program to start formatting the business guide. And once we have that somewhat in place in terms of just general information, they'll continue working with department heads to make sure the information in there is correct. And then once we get a draft, we can bring it back to the committee for review at a future subcommittee update. So that's where that stands. Website content.
Nothing too much on that, except I think we had mentioned previously that there was a company that does Morton's economic development page and that provides them with data. And we were really impressed with that. But at the time, they were going through an overhaul and they were relaunching their platform. He since reached out to me a week or so ago that they're ready that it's been launched. So I think it's a matter of sitting down with him, zooming in with him and seeing what the next phase is, what they're offering and seeing if we can fit in our budget. We do have some economic development funds. This might be a good use for it. I remember the price, I felt the price was quite reasonable. I don't know, Heather and Leah were aware of that, but so I think we'll continue to look at it. It wouldn't be this fiscal year. It'd be something we'd look at for next fiscal year. Not sure we'd get it off before September, but I think if we would, it'd be the Board of Selectmen would have to approve it. So I think it was Bill Keegan liked it. I like it. And Norton likes it. So assuming their platform is as good or better, we might be recommending it if it stays the affordable that it was.
Great. Thank you. Uptown FCBC.
We have a couple things going on. Paige might have mentioned it before, but the wayfinding signs are up and they look great. We also just got our recent order in of dog bowls. We ordered dog bowls with the Foxborough Common Business Collaborative logo on them, and we're going to give them to the businesses uptown that are dog friendly and just kind of a way to make it more inviting and sort of spruce it up. So we're just in the process of doing that now. We're also looking into some grants and funding. We'd like to get a couple of murals or a mural somewhere uptown. We don't really have any firm plans yet, but that kind of seems to be the new thing. So Leah, Paige, and I keep driving around and taking pictures of the ones we like and kind of putting them all together. And we're scouting out locations, and we just think it would be really cool. Everywhere you go now, they're the new thing. So we just thought that would be kind of inviting. We have 13 new flower buckets that are planted, and those will become part of the Adopt a Flower Bucket program. So that's really exciting. The farmers market has been going great. The concerts on the common have been going great. So that's all wonderful. Anything else, Leah? Oh, we talked at the planning board meeting about the rapid recovery grant that Paige got. So I think we might have talked about that here before, but so we're going to keep plugging away on that.
I think that Foxborough Nutrition looks like it's getting closer to opening if you follow them on social media. So, and George's Barber. So just, that little strip right there on Central Street in particular. It's exciting that there's a couple of new businesses that are getting closer to opening.
Yeah, Franklin just got a Franklin Nutrition, but ironically, it's not the same people. But I noticed the press and the local energy around that has been great. A lot of high school kids go. They have that. They're very attractive to certain generation, and I think it'll be a really good social thing. And I have seen them coming in and out with lumber and whatnot. So things are definitely going on over there. The other thing is, I think on Thursday nights after the concert on the Common, isn't there an art show going on at the Marilyn Rodman as well? So Thursday nights are actually pretty active uptown. It's kind of cool. And the rotary traffic pattern actually works lovely, even though I know, and people are quite safe with the slower traveling, even though I know it's a horror. But anyway, we're continuing the study of that. And
Can I just ask a question about the Rapid Recovery Grant? So what is that involving, Paige?
So this was, we just went through the data collect, we have a consultant, Beta Engineering. They came in and they got to know the Uptown area really well. In fact, I'm amazed when the way this gentleman, Eric, throws out terminology like he's been around a while. So they've been up here a lot. They've done an inventory. There was a survey done. And now we've just finished the data collection phase. So now we're getting into the recommendation phase. And the whole thought process is the state has funded the data collection and the recommendation and a plan phase, but they haven't funded implementation. But we believe that this is a positioning situation where we position ourselves well to get some funding for the Uptown area for improvements. So we are looking at a variety of things to assist with the Central Street parking lot. I have to admit, after attending the meeting last Thursday night, talking about it and with some of the stakeholders there, that's a tough one. But we originally, my goal was to really try to find a way to upgrade that, but there's so many different competing interests and even snow removal and geometry. So I've learned that I can't be naive in thinking that this is a matter of, a quick fix on that. And I am aware of that, but that was like the type of goals. Maybe, we'd like better lighting, maybe make it look attractive, find a way to move the dumpsters all in one area and make it sort of an amenity as opposed to right now. It's, it's well used and it's well loved, but it's not necessarily, that great, and folks don't, you kind of feel a little creepy back there at night. So you're not going to be back there later. And so, but that type of thing, also just looking at how to improve the pedestrian experience. And that's one of the things that we've been talking about with the Rotary is, we realize that it seems almost silly to be doing what we're doing, but that's because there hasn't been a lot of activity uptown on the common. We have all been in our houses for 18 months. But the ultimate goal in the future is that Shoveltown is going to be opening up and we're going to have apartments uptown and people are going to be walking around. The Orpheum is going to be bustling, Union Straw, Rally Point, Sam's Place. I mean, they're all, the more people out there, we're going to start to see activity. So we really are trying to plan ahead for that one, how to deal with the conflicts of 14,000 cars moving through while making it safer for pedestrians. So that's the reasoning behind this trial. And to be clear, the state has paid for all of this, every bit of it. So we really are benefiting. Even the 13 flower pots Heather mentioned, those are part of the traffic calming and we get to keep them. So that was all paid through the state grant as a part of trying to invest in our uptown areas to keep them vibrant. And, that's really where people's hearts are. And Foxborough is unique, but most people want to see their downtowns survive and thrive. I think we've all seen them go down and we want to see them rebound. So the state's backing it up right now. So that's my long answer to that. We're hopeful that some real money will come our way on that. It's hard to get good money uptown, but it'd be nice to do some, certain improvements, not necessarily dramatic, but little things.
Thank you. Any other comments on the subcommittee updates? No? Okay. The next item is the Uptown Development discussion, attract bakery, cafe, ice cream businesses. Heather?
Yes, so that's kind of me. So I reached out to Catherine, who graciously has a lot more knowledge than I do about this and agreed to help. Being around at the farmers markets and everywhere you go, we just repeatedly hear, oh my God, why can't we get a bakery or a cafe or an ice cream place uptown? So I thought, well, we're economic development. That's kind of what our group is supposed to do. So I reached out to Catherine and she has graciously agreed to kind of work with me on how we could facilitate doing that. And Leah said she'd help. And I'm sure Tom will help because he always agrees to everything. And Paige, of course. So we just kind of thought we would start looking at that, like what the steps are to go through and how you kind of figure out what would be sustainable and what people want and how you can look for that. And so if this group agrees, we were going to kind of run with that because it seems to be that that's what's lacking and that's what people want. And we have down the road a lot of space coming. So it seems like now's a good time to try to get working on that.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, do you want to shut your camera off? Cable access right now?
What's that?
I don't know if Mike Stanton wants to shut his camera off since we're on cable access right now.
I can't hear you. Mike, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
Go ahead, Leah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I just said, I don't know, just since we're on cable access, I don't know if you wanted to shut your camera off.
No. Thank you.
Okay. Right, the next item is the EDC master plan action items in your packet. We have the master plan grid that we had covered last fall. A few weeks ago, Paige and I went through this and we made updating the status throughout. I'm just going to go through the notes section quickly, but what I wanted to suggest is that as you look through this document and take some time, each of the subcommittees, because these individual items, have some of them have already been started working on by the subcommittees. As you go through this and use this again as a resource to see any ideas for anything you might want to add to what you're working on already, or if you're interested in participating in another subcommittee, feel free to reach out to the person that's leading that. So just starting off with the streetscape pedestrian transit, subcommittee for that being Uptown FCBC, all of the improvements are well underway, the benches, banners, the wayfinding and rotary improvements are in place. The local rapid recovery program that Paige just discussed. Another question there, Adirondacks chairs, gathering spots has been suggested. Under transit, the subcommittee for rail trail, pedestrian connections, just to update that, the Gatrago, as we know, was provided, this service was provided prior to COVID. Today's update, the condensed Gatra service is available. A fixed route Gatra service will not be an option, and the trolley service has determined not to be an option. Regarding the pedestrian bicycle connection subcommittee, again, that's underway. The grant application is in place. You'll be hearing, as Paige just mentioned. And just the note, ultimately connecting cyclists to Gillette would be involved there. Route 1, as Mike updated, continue to meet. Just a note, the wastewater treatment plant is privately owned. So again, I think whatever discussions come of that will certainly be driven by the craft organization. And mixed use development on the land up there, the craft organization is having some initial housing discussions there. The next category is master plan action items to do or be determined. And you can see there's a lot of discussion in this first section. Again, pedestrian transit bike related to that subcommittee. If you turn to page 3, under business assistance, both FCBC and business develop in this area. Small business initiatives, the buy local was inaugurated. Regarding infrastructure, I've reached out to Bill Keegan and he's been in touch with Aaron regarding 5G for that, for following up there. And I have a note here regarding Schneider Electric, which I'll read from the next page under mixed use in this area. Mixed use development, including housing, should be encouraged within the growth nodes, especially downtown with mixed use commercial first floors and upper story residential. I've had discussion with John Eva and the statement here, Schneider Electric's sole focus continues to be on business planning and construction-related activities associated with the relocation of manufacturing and research and development operations from the Neponset Avenue facility to the renovated Cohasset facility in late 2021 and early 2022. The company appreciates the broad level of public interest of the future disposition, redevelopment of the buildings and real estate associated with its Neponset Avenue properties. Will not engage in any discussions or planning efforts until mid to late 2022 at the earliest. So I did just want to have a placeholder on this, knowing that in the future we will be engaging in those types of discussions and probably revert to more frequent meetings to help us work with Schneider on that program. John, did you want to add anything?
One difficulty which we are having, Lorraine, as many of us are, and that is getting material for the renovation of Cohasset. So where we said late 21, early 22, that is dependent on us being able to complete the work there. And I'll keep you updated about progress.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Okay, the EDC website, we have the subcommittee for the website content. Regarding the business development subcommittee, we're working on the economic development guide. That continues. Under business support, the town should have a single point of contact for economic development and joint briefings for applicable permitting boards and town officials involved in that permitting. So that is project-based. There is a process in place, which Paige has works through with that. Put a question mark next to a sign and facade assistance program, question the demand on that. Same with a local fund, establishing a local fund for sign and facade rehab in conjunction with the banking community. And we have Rotary redevelopment has been completed. Everything else really is a question of, what type of support can the EDC give to any of these topics. So again, I ask each of the subcommittees to go through these and see which could be applicable or of interest. And then the last page you'll see are all of the completed action items. So there's been a lot done there. Any questions, comments? All right. The next item was review alcohol liquor license fees, but that's been withdrawn. Leah, did you want to just cover that?
Yeah, I think there was just a little bit of confusion around that item, and I don't think that we'll end up making a change. I don't want to speak to the board, but I think it should be on the Board of Selectmen's agenda. I think that, yeah, without going much into the backstory, I think there's just some confusion. So
Yeah.
We'll evaluate it over there.
Okay, yeah, we were asked to review it, but I totally understand.
If anyone has any, input or feedback, certainly feel free to provide it, to me, but.
Oh, sure, I will. The fees are fees. And I know the world I live in over at Water and Sewer that we have to defend our rates. And they need, whatever we do needs to be defensible. You charge for the fee, anything in excess of a fee is a tax, and we're not taxing authorities. So that's, I think, a guiding light. And as long as we do that, everything will be fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Lorraine, do you want me to give an update? I have a couple things to go over.
Yes, please.
In the gap, okay. I don't know if folks have heard, but the Walnut Street Signal Project has made it through Congressman Auchincloss's community project vetting. So we are one of the projects he chose to move forward through the Surface Transportation Act. It's not the massive one that's going to probably be bogged down, but it's a smaller one where legislators were allowed to do former earmarks, now called community projects. So we are very fortunate to be granted $2 million, well, hopefully granted $2 million if approved. So it is a very expensive project. We did put in 3.5, but at least the 2.5, I mean, 2 million will help. We have also applied for a MassWorks grant just a couple weeks ago. I think it was June 4th or June 6th. We got that in. And so that would maybe actually give MassWorks more of an incentive to grant us the grant because of it being tied not only to housing, but also the federal money. It's actually saving the state money because this actually is a state highway. And really they should be paying for this. So if we can find ways to leverage, our federal funds to get us state funds, we definitely will be doing that. So we're kind of have our ears down to ground listening to what happens. So if anybody pays attention to that and hears before I do about what's going on down in Congress with the Surface Transportation Act, pass it along. A very exciting milestone is, if you've driven around the Common, you notice the construction fencing around the fire station. And what that means is that it has finally sold. And the money has transferred, they've taken possession, and they are underway. So their first priority is to get Shoveltown going. My understanding is Shoveltown will begin their lease January 1st. So Doug King Builders will be out there working very hard on the fire station portion. They were also going to be demoing the funeral home and the old housing authority property at 1517 Market Street. That's not quite yet, but not too long. Like I know they're not waiting too long for that. So we've asked them to let us know because I know lots of folks want to watch the demolition. So I'll keep y'all posted. And then outdoor dining, something we've been discussing is this outdoor dining has been such a tremendous success and somewhat kind of one of the silver linings of COVID. And so we talked, Leah had mentioned, and others have mentioned that we might want to make this flexibility somewhat permanent down the road. So I did talk to Barney Overett, our zoning guru, and he said that when we get back, I get back from my vacation and he's back from his, we're gonna this summer kind of touch base and start thinking about it. We have a lot more time. The state just changed the requirements in the bill that was mentioned today. So we have good amount of time, but maybe not, we might only have November town meeting, actually, now that I think about it, because I think it goes through April, and May town meeting, we would have a gap where we wouldn't have it. So if we want to do something, we actually have a pretty short time frame. So that's something we'll be looking at. And also the ABCC is a factor. So we can, our limits are our limits, but we do want to find a way to make some of this flexibility carry on. And that is my update.
Great, thanks very much. Okay. All right, so the last item on our agenda is discussion regarding the EDC charter and committee reorganization. So why don't we start with the charter? Leah has pointed out that with the board changing the date that they actually complete the reappointments to June, that we should just update the language in here. So I thought we could look at the second paragraph there. The committee will elect a chair, vice chair, and clerk. The board may reorganize annually in May, strike in May, and add after the Board of Selectmen completes reappointments, so that we leave it open-ended for if that date were to change again. Does that sound acceptable? I should take a
And Lorraine, just some background on the reason
So moved.
why we're moving
sorry.
better align is just to better align. The reason we're moving it to June is just to better align with the election and town meeting. Just
Yes.
a turnover than usual.
Right.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Seconded.
Lorraine Brew, yes. John Eva,
Yes.
Heather Harding,
Yes.
Tom Murphy,
Yes.
Catherine Rollins,
Yes.
Mike Saig. Mike, you're on mute.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mike Stanton.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All right, and then at our last meeting, so Heather asked that we put reorganization discussion on the agenda. So I just wanted to have a discussion to see if there's interest to reorganize the committee this time.
I nominate Lorraine Brew.
Well, why don't we have a discussion first? If there's no interest, we don't have to. Our charter does not require us to do that annually.
My thought, Lorraine, was that we don't currently have a vice chair. So I thought we should at least try to fill that position at the very least.
So currently, Anne has been serving as clerk,
Right.
essentially as vice chair in the absence of that. So
So I know that Dan had been the clerk and I know you had been the chair, and my thought was just that we should, try to fill the vice chair position. And I wanted to nominate Tom Murphy for that. I know I've worked with Tom a lot over the past year, and every time Leah and Paige and I come up with a project and we're looking for people, Tom steps up, and he's a worker and he does a great job and he gets it done. And I would like to see him consider being the vice chair. I think he would do a great job if you ever were absent or something.
any other comments? Anyone want to nominate anyone else for vice chair?
Tom, are you willing to do it?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So we will take a vote.
I'll make a motion to Tom Murphy is vice chair of the Economic Development.
Gonna get a
I'll
second,
second that.
Mike? Okay, Lorraine Brew, yes. John Eva,
Yes.
Heather Harding,
Yes.
Tom Murphy,
Oh, I vote yes.
yes. Catherine Rollins,
Yes.
Mike Saig,
Yes.
Mike Stanton.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations, Tom.
Thanks, Heather.
Any other questions or comments this time? All right.
I would, for what it's worth, I think, I know the Route 1 guys, we're working on stuff that's miles down the road. And I think, tip of the hat to the folks who are putting in all the time downtown. So, keep meeting. And I think when you have your recommendations and stuff, when it comes to the full committee, we look forward to supporting it. So I know the stuff we do on Route 1 is terribly long lead times. And like I shared with you today, Lorraine, I was driving around the common the other day and I was admiring the flower baskets and almost rear-ended somebody. But hey, that's me. And I have seen the parking signs are very visible. So there's tangible results and noticeable results from their efforts, and it's greatly appreciated.
Thanks. All right. If there's no further, can I get a motion to?
Motion to adjourn. That's my job.
Seconded.
All right, everybody. We'll see you.
I have to do roll call. Lorraine Brew. Sorry.
Very good.
John Eva,
Yes.
Heather Harding, Heather?
She might have signed off.
Yes.
Okay. Tom Murphy?
Yes.
Catherine Rollins?
Yes.
Mike Saig?
Yes.
Mike Stanton?
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Paige.